Yearly and quarterly reviews making psychological contracts a reality. In the first lecture, we discussed the management approach of psychological contracts, and many of the management methods in subsequent lectures revolve around this approach. In this lecture, I will share how to concretize the psychological contract between you and your subordinates through annual and quarterly reviews. I understand that many companies require employees to do annual or even quarterly work summaries, but this action often becomes a mere formality. If this periodic review is aimed at achieving a psychological contract, you will not feel that it is just a formality. Firstly, I have a personal development plan for periodic reviews, which is an improvement on the general work report summary form. It consists of 4 parts: work review, personal strengths and opportunities analysis, exploring career interests, and next steps plan. How to use this form. Let each of your subordinates fill it out at the end of each year, and then you can supplement and correct it based on their responses. Then, spend about an hour in a one-on-one conversation with them about this plan, and finally record the consensus reached in written form. In the next year, communicate with each subordinate once every quarter, review and adjust their development plan. Now, let's talk about how to write each part of this form. The first part is the work review module. Similar to most companies' year-end assessments, I also included the employee's contribution to organizational development in the past year as a review item. As I mentioned in the 4th lecture, everyone is a developer of the organization. You can use this form to implement this system and encourage each employee to take organizational development seriously. The contribution they make to building the team should also be recognized as an achievement. Unlike traditional year-end reviews, performance reviews are only a small part of the review. The purpose of the review is not only to assess work progress and performance, but also to help subordinates understand themselves better. In general, I ask my subordinates to summarize their 3 strengths and 2 areas for improvement in the past year's work, with examples provided, in order to identify their personal advantages and opportunities for growth. When extracting strengths, it is important to guide subordinates to use successful cases to illustrate their achievements. Imagine yourself as an interviewer and ask questions to help subordinates accurately summarize their strengths. For example, one of my subordinates believed that he had a strong, innovative spirit, and wanted to transfer to a creative department. However, after careful listening to his report, I realized that his strength was actually execution, and he excelled at optimizing and improving processes, and then using attention to detail to bring creative ideas to fruition. By asking detailed questions about the case, we can help subordinates identify their strengths and encourage them to fully utilize them in future work to improve their performance. After discussing strengths, we move on to areas for improvement. I avoid using the term weakness and instead focus on opportunities for skill development. Weakness is a static term and a general label, while opportunities for skill development are dynamic, specific, and developmental. For example, you can do more to understand customer needs is better than lack of communication skills, and you can think more from a big picture perspective when considering problems is better than too focused on details. Of course, it is important to note that some so-called shortcomings do not necessarily limit subordinates' development, and there is no need to bring them up. If we focus too much on shortcomings, we can make someone feel worthless. After the second part, we move on to the third part of the personal development plan, exploring career interests with subordinates. Career interests consist of short-term and long-term development goals. Generally, I ask subordinates what they want to do in the next 1 to 3 years, and then listen to their long-term plans for 3 to 5 years. To be honest, anything beyond 5 years has little guiding significance. Factors to consider when exploring career interests include position, rank, salary, location, industry, etc. You can ask your subordinates about their expectations and goals for each aspect, and then help them prioritize these factors. This can help subordinates, and you understand what they want most. Here, I want to share a perspective, which is to establish a concept with subordinates if possible. Most companies cannot employ any employee for life. A term may be 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years. The key is to help subordinates think about what they want to achieve during this term. If they achieve their goals, they may continue to the next term in the company, or they may leave. Finish this task before moving on to the next one is a common saying, but the key is whether the task is completed beautifully. Review the annual work with your subordinate and discuss their personal needs. If you can put it in the framework of the term, it is even better. The fourth part is the action plan for the next step. When discussing personal development, the worst thing is to get excited during the conversation but not take action afterwards. I suggest that you ask your subordinates to turn the content of this 1-hour conversation into a time-bound, productive, and measurable action plan, and review progress periodically in the future. If you have many subordinates, you can even provide training and assessment for common issues in the future. Generally speaking, during the year-end conversation, you will assign new tasks to your subordinates. You can tell them the significance of the new task for achieving their career interests based on their personal strengths, areas for improvement, and career interests. Attention should be paid to the following 3 points when communicating the personal development plan. First, sometimes expectation management is necessary. Jack Ma once said in a classic speech to new employees at Alibaba, "Joining Alibaba, we do not promise you will get rich. We do not promise you will succeed. We do not promise you will become an official, but we promise you will be very unlucky and you will be very wrong." This is a typical expectation management technique that diverts subordinates' attention from the bright future and tells them to also pay attention to the twists and turns of the road. This is especially suitable for companies that have high requirements for employees' ability to withstand pressure and setbacks. Second, formal communication should have a sense of ceremony, including detailed and complete writing, selection of conversation occasions, and timing. My own practice is to ask subordinates to write the personal development plan carefully first, and then I write my comments at the end and print it out. When communicating with multiple subordinates, I even set aside a whole day to stop all other work and focus on this one thing, which shows subordinates how much importance you attach to this matter. Some superiors like to chat while eating. If it is a regular communication, I think it is okay, but when discussing subordinates' future work and development, I suggest you find a meeting room where no one will disturb. Third, you should speak less, listen more, and ask more questions. In daily work, it is often you who assign work to subordinates, and they listen to you. Finally, when you have the opportunity to speak, please hold back your thoughts and let subordinates express their opinions first. Then, you can give targeted feedback. Do you remember the 5 questioning sentence patterns I mentioned in the 3rd lecture? They are also applicable here.